In 1949, my grandfather was 31 years old. He only had a third grade education, but he was living in Oakland, California. And at that time, Oakland, California was a huge manufacturing city. Very similar to what you would see Pittsburgh or places like Cleveland or even Detroit. There were great companies in the Bay Area like Chemical. And although my grandfather wasn't very educated, he benefited from a manufacturing economy, similar to how many people in Chicago or Indiana or Detroit benefited from General Motors or Ford. Now, they didn't have to have a lot of education, but that manufacturing sector was skilled, and it allowed a lot of men, especially that came from the rural South, to come into bigger cities and buy nice houses, send their kids to school, and be a part of what is now known as the middle class. Then we were lucky as a country to have great presidents like Dwight D. Eisenhower, also affectionately known to Americans as Ike, who created the interstate highway system and invested into the infrastructure of the states, moving goods and services around the country, which also created more jobs. And this video but from CNN was called "Why the Rate of Single Men in the U.S. Looking for Dates Has Declined," is explained by Professor Scott Galloway of NYU Business School about how men in those times were a lot better off than men in our times.
For the majority of history, a small percentage of men have had the majority of the mating opportunities. But in America, we decided to make a huge investment in what would probably be the greatest innovation in history, and that is in the middle class. From 1945 to 1947, 7 million men returned from war were discharged from the service, and we decided to give them the GI Bill, subsidized mortgages. We saw education rates go from 5 to 45%. They were valued, and we had such a strong manufacturing base that you had massive marriage and household formation. And some men were seen as more economically and emotionally viable. And you've seen the reverse happen with the offshoring of much of our manufacturing base, with a society that quite frankly doesn't value young men. When we talk about problems with people of color or women, we see it as a systemic societal problem. When we see problems or the stats that you just mentioned, we see it as accountability, or that men just need to level up. But married households and household formation are better citizens. They vote, they save at twice the rate, they're less likely to commit crimes, and we have fewer and fewer viable men. We have a dearth of economically and emotionally viable men. But the middle class is an accident. Unless you invest in it, it doesn't happen. Eisenhower decided to invest $500 billion in a national highway project that created tons of jobs. We have, and by the way, the tax rate back then was 91%. We raised money and we redistributed in social programs that made young people more economically viable.
So I know you guys are wondering, what does that have to do with today? Well, the average guy in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s could afford to buy a house. Housing was cheap. Food was cheap. Inflation was not as bad as it is today. But in today's world, those same men are looking not as attractive to women, right? Because why? A lot of our manufacturing jobs have been shipped overseas. We're more or less into tech. And also what's different is we have a lot of women competing in the economy now for service sector jobs, healthcare industry jobs, and things like that, which means that women don't really need men as much as they used to for income. And so as women start to do better in the economy and develop their skills, and if men don't, they look at men differently. So what you're seeing now is women becoming way more selective, right? And this leaves a lot of guys out. So the same guys in the 1940s or the 50s that could get a wife making, let's say, not a lot of money, in today's world, these guys are not looked at as favorable at all. Now, when Kevin Samuels was still living, he appeared on Fresh and Fit, and they asked him, what is the possibility that the average woman can get a high value man? He had this to say.
Women, maybe even older women, as to how to lock down a high value man. You know, you're getting 5,000 plus people watching you, asking these questions. What would be one of the biggest takeaway tips you could give to women in the current dating marketplace to lock down a high value guy?
Stop. Because only 10% of you are going to get it. I'm sorry. Look, look. One of the biggest, 20% of you can qualify for it. Maybe 10% of you will land it. And that's really what my show is based on. You can, I don't begrudge you wanting what you want, but are you an 8, 9, and 10? Well, actually, an adjustable 6, 8, or 9 in the looks, and are you an 8, 9, or 10 in the body? If not,
move along.
move along. This is South Beach. You don't come to South Beach if you rocking a one piece. This is two-piece town. This is a bikini town. So this high value thing has worked because it just says women are hypergamous. They want to consolidate on the highest value man possible, but that may be different. See, that's possible. What's possible for Tina is not possible for Angie, is not possible for Hillary. So now I got women finally asking themselves the question, what does the kind of man that you want from a woman?
Putting it back on them for once, huh?
Yep.
Well, and that's why I'm sitting here and I'm like, and I hear when I first started talking about this same kind of concept that honestly, it's been floating around the sphere a lot, you know.
So with that being said, now we're at today's topic. Rapper, I believe you pronounce her name as Khia, you know, the one from My Neck, My Back. I might have got her name wrong, but that's what I call her, right? And she's also come out to defend a lot of blue collar black men who just can't get dates. Although Kevin Samuels clearly just said that most women will not end up with rich men because competition is fierce to the top. Now she's going viral for saying this about men who have honest jobs and are middle class workers, and the fact that black women are looking down upon these men. This is what she had to say.
Where the real granddaddies at? Y'all stop acting like y'all don't see them working on the side of the road. Take them as a motherfucking basket of chicken, hoe. Act like you see that hard working with that goddamn work motherfucking uniform on, working. Go by the fire department and drop off some biscuits, bitch. Y'all don't appreciate them niggas making $30,000 a year. Y'all keep wanting these niggas that ain't getting you nothing but dick and diseases. Keep it up. I'm gonna take my hat off to the hard-working middle-class men out there working hard. Catch him on his lunch break, baby. And on Friday, he gonna make sure you got what you need. That was my daddy and granddaddy. Maybe I'm just reminiscing because ain't no more daddies like that no more. Everybody want to be a drug dealer and a rapper. Nobody don't want to be no worker, hard helmet wearing ass worker. You niggas. But we like them boys, men. Real man. Y'all don't want to give him no respect. He don't want nothing but a 6-pack and some money to get back and forth to work. But he gonna make sure that bills paid and gonna put that dick on you. And gonna be happy when you could go in there and give him that steak and motherfucking mashed potatoes and goddamn salmon. He happy. You better learn how to get your family back in order. Yeah, go to let's talk. You remember when mama used to fry that chicken in that Tupperware bowl and put that goddamn paper towel in it and take that bowl up there to daddy job? I do. When we got that check on Friday, baby, everybody had money. The whole house was happy because daddy was home. You ain't had a daddy at your house. Study want to chase after these niggas, don't give no fuck about you and want to look down at a real nigga. Y'all better cut that shit out. You gonna be by yourself. You getting old. You getting old. All that play shit was in your 19s and 20s. Get real with yourself.
So let me kind of just clean this all up. You have a lot of men who work normal jobs. Let's say, for example, if they are even like trash collectors. Some guys are plumbers, electricians. If we really want to be honest, in America, those guys can make a lot of money. Plumbers are highly skilled professionals that can demand economies well over, or wages rather, well over 6 figures. However, a woman who can make just $60,000 a year can look at that man as not being prestigious enough or as academically qualified enough for her to be in a relationship with. And there lies the problem. Women looking for men that, number one, they can't attain, or downgrading men who are actually on their level. And let me just say this without being controversial. They're also looking down on men that are not even on their level. Most ladies would be glad to have a man that is a plumber and owns like 3 or 4 trucks, or a truck driver that has like 10 trucks or 3 or 4 trucks that's making plenty of money. But because a lot of these men are looked down upon, women don't want to marry them. And that is the difference between today's middle class and the middle class of the 40s and the 50s. You see, when you have more women dating middle class men, the economies actually grew. Kids were better. Kids were better behaved. Voting actually happened at a higher rate. All of these things happen when you build your middle class families. But now we don't have middle class families like before because women just feel like they're too better than the men they're trying to seek. And in reality, a lot of these men are on these women's level. So they're chasing for guys that they can't attain. And then when you can't obtain those guys, then you end up with, disappointment, or as she said, diseases, or a little bit of everything else. And then once you get there, then you want to come back to the guys you were complaining about or not giving a chance and expect them to want to deal with you. And to be honest, it just doesn't work like that. Honest men who want to stay and build a family for a woman, build a future for a woman. See, what women don't understand is just because he's there right now, it doesn't mean that he won't be somewhere else in 5 years. See, right now he might be a plumber, but you don't know what he could be in 15 years. Just like, I remember somebody calling into my job one day and they were like, look, man, you're going to die here. This is some irate customer, right? This is just like 15 years ago. You're going to die at that company. And I told the guy simply, hey man, you don't know anything about me. You don't know what I have planned. I'm quite sure I make a lot more money than that guy does today, because you never know what people can become. And that's what ladies are missing out on. You're missing out on men that actually have the potential to do something. We all start somewhere and we all end somewhere. The problem with a lot of women is you look at where the guy is right now, but you don't know where he's going to be in the future. And you think you're going to stay there at the finish line and pick him after he crosses the finish line. But we all know that typically that's not how it works. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I really appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe, hit the bell. We're out.